Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you might be in the world. Welcome to another NetHope Solutions Center webinar. My name is Frederick Winsness, and I'm delighted to welcome you today to a webinar with Revere, Tableau, and Splash. And here today we're going to be talking about unlocking the power of people and using Revere's platform to activate your volunteer and fan base to improve your mission, and should turn out to be a very, very interesting topic in terms of leveraging and your volunteer base out there. But before we get started, I want to go over the regular housekeeping rules. We want to make this as interactive as we can, so please open up the chat window. You do that by clicking the little balloon icon, number 3 from the right on the bottom of your screen, and there you can watch other people posting their questions, and you can post your questions as well. Feel free to post the question to all the attendees, or you can then send it to me, the host, and I will rebroadcast to everyone. We will take the question and answers towards the end of the hour, last 15 minutes or so. Also, we are recording this session today, and look for a follow-up email with the recording and the collateral that will be posted to the NetHope Solutions Center, and we'll send you links to all of that. And after the session today, you will see a webinar satisfaction poll that will pop up in your browser. We certainly would appreciate getting some feedback in that survey, and there you can also indicate if you want to be contacted by the speakers or not. So yeah, a couple of minutes of your time to help us improve this webinar series going forward would be great. So without any further ado, I want to quickly introduce who's going to be speaking today, and they're going to do their own introductions in a little bit. But we have Brian Kurth. He is the founder and CEO of Revere Software. Ashley Monson, she's Social Impact Coordinator at Tableau Foundation. We're having some slight technical issues with Esther, but we hope that Esther Aller, Senior Technical Support Engineer with Tableau, will joining us shortly. And Ryan Trude, the Technical Operation Manager at splash.org, will also be joining us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Brian.
Very good. Well, thanks so much. Hello, everybody. We're thrilled to be here with you this morning and to share with you, what we've learned over the last few years of how to truly unlock the power of people. And go ahead and go to the next slide if you would. There we go. I'll keep going. Well, we'll go ahead and make introductions to kick things off. So, as Frederick had mentioned, I am the founder of Revere Software, and just very quickly, I had a company in the 2000s called Vocation Vacations. It was a consumer-based company where we placed people into their dream jobs for 2 to 3 days all across America, and that was the catalyst for Revere Software. We realized that there was an opportunity to take it bigger and work with corporate foundations, nonprofits across the world. So I'm thrilled to be here today to share about Revere and what we created 3.5 years ago. And I'll turn things over here to Ashley to make her introductions.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Monson, and I am the Social Impact Coordinator for Tableau Foundation. So what that means is that I oversee the employee service and giving programs for Tableau software, and that also includes our skilled volunteering program, which is the main part that I'm going to be speaking with you all about today.
And my name is Ryan Trude, and I'm with Splash, and I'm the Technology Operations Manager here, and what that means is I oversee our system integrations for our organizational implementations.
Very good. So as I mentioned earlier, we really saw there was an opportunity to be had here in terms of not only from a business perspective, but also just, not to wrap ourselves in the Revere flag of social impact and for good and feeling good at night about what we're doing. But truth be told, there really is that in what we're doing. And the basis of what everyone on this call, what we believe in is, the world is truly, in the world of solving humanity's most pressing issues, we believe people are the secret sauce. I don't care how tech-focused you are, or how you're using digital day in and day out, as we all are, but the human being is at the core to all of that. There's a human being at the other end of this video conference. There are many human beings at the other end of this video conference and webinar, and whether it's a phone call, in-person, video, email, there's still human interaction and human contact, and that is the core to everything that we do. So, excuse me, what we realized, as I mentioned, coming out of Vocation Vacations, that there's this abundant supply of people wanting to do good things for other people. As I mentioned, Vocation Vacations, it was one-on-one. It was the consumer. It was someone wanting to be a bakery owner or to be a film producer, and we would set them up with experts around the world. It was very exciting. But what we realized was, with the dawn of the digital age, and the fact that now this was, again, many years ago, that people were not necessarily having to go face-to-face to be mentored, to get expertise and gain knowledge. There was an abundance of experts who would be willing to have a phone conversation, jump on a webinar, jump on a video conference. And so we recognized that, and we started thinking, how can we be part of this? How can we start connecting people who otherwise would never connect? So we recognized the subject matter expert base and this infinite demand of knowledge seekers. As you'll hear in a little bit, or I'll mention again more than likely, that we started on the education side. We started recognizing that there was this need with university alumni absolutely raising their hand and being willing to provide their expertise to current students. And as you can imagine, there's this huge infinite demand within the university sector, within university students, for knowledge, career advice. But it also held true within this space, within the nonprofit and corporate foundation, corporate social responsibility space. So it really, truly is a win-win opportunity for both the experts as well as the knowledge seekers. The subject matter experts, in this case, in what we're going to talk about today, the Tableau employees, they get to go to bed at night knowing, not only did I do a great job, on the job, day in and day out, of what I'm working on and getting paid for at Tableau, but I'm giving back. I'm working with some nonprofits. I'm helping make change for good, making some social impact across the globe. For the knowledge seekers, they're able to gain expertise that they otherwise would not be able to gain. And Tableau did not previously have a way of connecting them, and we're going to talk more about that in depth, but this is at the high level. So, excuse me, the knowledge seekers are now able to advance the mission, get the expertise to basically assure that the investment that they're receiving from the experts, whether it be expertise, maybe it's a monetary investment, maybe it's some discounted or free software, they're able to use it and advance the mission of the nonprofit. So I've kind of said quite a bit about Revere Software. So this is what we do. We created a platform that is, most importantly for our clients, it is private labeled. So it looks and feels like them. Most people have never heard of Revere Software, and that's okay in a sense, because what you're using, as from a technology platform perspective, most importantly, looks and feels like your organization or your grant-making organization that you're partnered with, and that's what we're all about. Go ahead, Frederick. There we go. So as I mentioned, it is at the top of that circular pattern here, diagram. We are a branded platform. So as you'll see in a little bit, Ashley will show you a little bit about what the Tableau platform program looks like, the Service Corps program. And then we take it beyond just that branded platform, and we do some matchmaking. I like to joke that we are a little bit of LinkedIn meets Match.com. LinkedIn because, we're talking about professional skill sets and expertise. Match.com because, to that second circle, we are matchmaking. But what's critical about us, which is different, is that we are not your typical, more traditional HR-driven mentoring program. That's not at all what we do. We instead, rather than it being managed from the top down, it's managed from the bottom up. The grantee, you, the nonprofits on this call right now, you're empowered to reach out through this platform and gain the expertise that you so desperately need. And so we make that connection. You have choices. You have choices in who, how, whether it's in person, phone, video conference, as well as obviously when, as long as it matches up with the expert's schedule. Some folks do consider this, that it goes beyond just maybe an initial conversation. It becomes a little bit of what we call flash mentoring. Again, it does not become a commitment of 6 to 12 months. Ashley Monson here, who's on the call with us from Tableau, will assure that she definitely does not have the time to be managing a full-on mentoring program where she's checking in to make certain that the relationship is building over 6 to 12 months and so on. This is flash mentoring. This is in, out, you're getting the information you need. Now, that being said, if an organic relationship forms from that initial discussion, fantastic. We have the stories of that all the time, that people become not only colleagues, expertise colleagues, but also friends. It's fantastic. So that leads to that shared knowledge that the expert is obviously providing to the grantee. And then most importantly, or I shouldn't say most importantly, but also importantly, at the end there of that cycle are the data insights and impacts. And so all of the engagement is indeed tracked, and our clients, like Tableau, is then able to retrieve that data of the engagement. They're not watching the video conferences or anything like that, but they are, as you'll see in a little bit, they are able to pull reports and to gain knowledge of the level of engagement between their subject matter expert volunteers and the nonprofit grantees. Go ahead, Frederick.
Hi, Frederick is having a little bit of a technical issue on his end. We're trying to get resolved.
No problem. I can actually just, I can start talking to you guys a little bit about.
I'll introduce Ashley here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm Ashley, once again, with Tableau Foundation. For those of you who might not know what Tableau is a software company, and we produce data analytics tools that help people really see and understand their data. Tableau Foundation is the social good arm. Tableau Foundation was established right after we went public as a company in 2014. And our mission as a foundation is to encourage the use of facts and analytical reasoning to help solve world problems. When we were first founded, one of the first things that our director, Neil Myrick, did was just go talk to people. He talked to nonprofits, foundations, corporate partners that were doing similar things, community leaders, and he asked them all the same thing. He said, we have 3 resources to deploy in advance of our mission, our product, our people, and money. And he asked them to help him prioritize those resources. And over again, he got a very similar answer. Money's great, but you'll never have enough of it to really move the dial on any one issue. But the product has the power to be transformative, and nonprofits need people to partner with because they often lack the capacity to use data in a really transformative way. So that's kind of how we centered all of our programs, was really around our product and our people to leverage our core capacity. Can we move to the next slide? There we go. So one of the first programs we developed was our software donation program, which isn't a novel thing for a software company to have. We donate copies of our licenses to small nonprofits through TechSoup. If we do have any small nonprofits on the call here and you're interested in it, definitely check it out. You can see the link there on the bottom, and I'll put it in the chat as well. But we wanted to do more than just give away our software and hope nonprofits could figure out how to use it. We really wanted to partner with them through the process. So as a result of that, on the next slide, you'll see that we developed Tableau Service Corps. So that's what we're here to talk about today, our skilled volunteering program. And we use Revere Software to power this program so that we can match our employee experts, our skilled volunteers, with nonprofits that are trying to do more with their data. And if you go to the next slide, I will show you what that looks like. So this is our Tableau Service Corps site. So as a nonprofit user, you can come to this site and then you can search for a volunteer that's going to help you with your Tableau and data needs. And on the next slide, you'll see that the site has two purposes. So as a nonprofit, you can come to the site and search for a volunteer and begin a Tableau project. This is also where we can invite our employees and often our partners and our customers who are Tableau enthusiasts to sign up to volunteer and get partnered with organizations that are doing amazing work around the world. So the search tool is enabled along two different things. One is categories, so all the different categories of support you might be looking for in Tableau. And there's also a location field. So if it's important to you to find someone that you can meet with in person or is in the same time zone as you, that allows you to kind of really narrow down your search and find the volunteer that's going to suit your needs the best. So once you've searched for a volunteer, you'll get a really personalized profile for each person that has a photo, tells you a little bit about what their specialty is, along with a bio down below. And this was mentioned before by Brian, but what I really like about this platform, I came from a nonprofit background, and I've submitted projects before that just wait to be picked up by someone and kind of sit in this black hole limbo. We really wanted to make this program people-centric. So as a nonprofit, your experience so far has been to search for a person, and now I've located a person I want to work with, and I can request a session, and that message will get directly to Keisha. And I can decide whether I want to meet with her on the phone, video, or some advisors also have in-person enabled. So the first step, like I mentioned, is to select a volunteer. So we search if we need help with mapping in Tableau, for example, or calculations. I search that and I find my volunteer. And then after I've found my volunteer, I get to send some time options. So a few calendar openings on my calendar, and that comes through to the advisor. And they're able to accept the session and the time that works best for them. And then you have a scoping call to figure out, is this a good partnership? Are the expectations aligned? Is this project feasible? We do put rails on our projects in that we expect them to be in chunks that are 10 hours or less. We don't put a limit on the number of sessions, however. So if a nonprofit does have a very kind of larger project or a bigger problem, I encourage them to chunk it up into 10-hour deliverables that you can work with a volunteer on so that it's more attainable to achieve in a volunteer setting. And then the last step is just to work on your project together. And as Brian mentioned, the great part about this is once people are connected, they don't really need a whole lot of support after that because they've already matched along skill sets and they know what the problem is that they're working towards, and then they just go off and work together, and then we get feedback through the platform in the form of reviews. We've personally chosen to turn off reviews because it's configurable that way, and we found that it's kind of having a Yelp effect where the people who had conferences were getting more requests than the people who hadn't, but we still find it really useful from an employee engagement standpoint because I can take those positive feedback, which it's like 99% of the time positive, and circulate it back to that volunteer and ask if they want me to share it with their manager. So it's a great feedback loop to have. And then on the back end, as an admin, I get all different reports about the kind of sessions that are happening between our employees and the nonprofits. And this gives us great insight into the kind of help that nonprofits are looking for, which volunteers are really going above and beyond. And all of that we can incorporate into our regular reporting, which is really important for us. So this is an example of one of the reports. You can see here a little breakdown of the completed sessions by skill type. So those are the skills that I mentioned before that people can search on. So obviously creating visualizations and advanced methods are most popular, followed loosely by dashboards and getting started. So this is what we know that nonprofits are looking for help with. We can also break it down by top advisors. Keisha, who we mentioned before, is getting the most requests this year with 31, and then it steadily trails off after that. I try to keep a good ratio of the number of advisors. We have a lot. We have like over 100 advisors right now in the system. So we try to make sure that they get a steady flow of projects and activities throughout the year.
And Ashley, if I could just interrupt for a second, the other benefit is that an advisor, life comes up. They get busy in a work project, not a service corps project, or they may have be on maternity leave, or they simply are on extended vacation. They can turn themselves on and off the program as well, so they're empowered to do that.
Definitely.
Great. Well, Brian and Ashley, thanks so much. So my name is Ryan Trude, and I'm with Splash. We use the service corps. So a little bit about Splash. We're a nonprofit located in Seattle, Washington, and we were founded in 2007 by Eric Stowe. We work in what's called the WASH sector, water, sanitation, and hygiene, and our efforts really focus on bringing clean water, clean hands, and clean toilets to kids in urban areas. I'm currently working in 8 different countries at over 1,700 project sites, and a project site for us could be a school or an orphanage or community center. And we serve over 400,000 kids in those 8 countries that we work in. And we can go to the next slide. And Frederick, are we able to go to the next slide?
Hi, Ryan. Sorry, Frederick's having some technical difficulty on his end.
No, that's all right. I can kind of keep going here. So at Splash, when we're seeking knowledge and really reaching out to the service corps and internally focused, we really try and bring our team members kind of a centralized area for reporting and knowledge sharing. So the really nice thing that we've been able to do on a couple of key items is really just centralize our information for ease of access, and our partnership with Tableau has really allowed us to do that through their product of Tableau Online. Another part that we try and focus on is improving collaboration, and Tableau and our other systems that are in place are really key to bringing that collaboration to our teams, whether that's between our global teams or just 2 individuals sitting next to each other, or really a cross-departmental data visualization or report or some analytics. And the third piece is that we really try and keep things simple but informative, especially through our data visuals. And this is where the service corps has really come into play for us, is taking that to the next level, and we'll touch on that a little bit more coming up, for some really keeping it simple for quick insights and organizational planning, or just kind of trying to break down communication barriers. We might be able to take a look at some examples, but if not, that's okay. So, a little bit of background on Splash and how we have kind of grown within our reporting structure. Actually, if it's working, Frederick, we'll just go ahead and go to the next one here. Yeah, great, thank you. So I'm really fortunate to work for a nonprofit that has had commitment to data and data transparency. So prior to 2016, we were really leveraging, I think everybody's pretty familiar with Excel and Word and Outlook and a number of different, simple in-office tools like that, along with this website called Proving It that we had at the time. And during that time, we were managing over almost 1,200 project sites with these tools. And, over time, we really started to understand and realize that it wasn't going to meet our internal needs to stay on those older platforms. So in 2015, we began to kind of look around and try and find a new platform to keep our information on for our internal teams to collaborate on and for us to scale with. And in 2016, we began to implement Salesforce. And Salesforce for us really meets a lot of internal needs and aligns with a lot of our goals around data management and information management. But the one area that, we really were seeking to get some improvement on was data analytics and data visualization. And so we can actually go ahead and go to the next slide if you want. And in 2007, we were really fortunate to begin to partner with the Tableau Foundation. And during that time, I started to hear about Service Corps and started to kind of log in and really kind of look at some of the volunteers as we started to look at some of the projects we wanted to tackle internally. And this is kind of when I came across Esther's profile. She has a little bit of nonprofit experience, which piqued my interest, and she would kind of understand our approach and some of our issues or goals that we were trying to achieve. And then she also has the skill set that was really keen for me and to try and reach some of our data visualization goals and approach some of the problems that I was facing in some of the projects that we've had so far. So with that said, let's take a look at a couple of projects and try and unpack these a little bit. So this report that we're looking at here is actually a page off of our impact report, and you can visit that at splash.org/impact. And this site is really aimed at replacing the Proving It site that we had earlier, really trying to stick to our commitment of transparency and doing it through Tableau. And so when I first started using Tableau and Tableau Desktop, I was a little apprehensive. It seemed like a lot at first, but the nice thing was that, the Service Corps was right there, and I was able to reach out, and it was a great way to just break the ice and get past some of those initial learning curves. I think now that I look at this and some of the questions I had at the time around this dashboard, they were really simple, at least simple now. But at that time, they were seemed daunting, and so it was just really nice to have the Service Corps pretty much at my fingertips, and that's when I started to work with Esther.
Yeah, and so for the more technical people on this one, the issue or one of the initial issues that we ran into was Ryan was seeing duplicate data in his final table, and it's actually a fairly common issue when you do a table join if you have a one-to-many or a many-to-many relationship, which we were able to fix using level of detail calculations.
Thanks, Esther. And so on the next one, I think we had a similar issue here, but this was a more internal piece for us where, this is just an example of some projects we were working on, but when you look at this, we were really trying to come to a solution where we could see by country, by scope of work, how many sites we were going to plan to work at and how many we could work at that year, and then kind of where we were at, really measuring our progress. And so the same kind of issue here where there were just some major duplications and really complex problems, at least for me at the time, trying to dig into different data sources and really come to a solution that was simple to use and easy to understand for all levels of the organization. This one was actually a project that's still underway, but was for our more management team level kind of snapshot progress. Yeah, so we could go ahead and go to the next one. And on this one, this is a map of Kolkata, India, and we're actually really excited about this. We were able to just pull this together less than a few weeks ago. And so there's quite a lot here in the back end. There's some custom mapping pieces and multiple data sources and multiple calculations. And the problem I was facing here was just getting the interactivity of Tableau to take hold. And that's one of the great things about Tableau for us, is that we can have really complex data kind of boiled down and presented in a more simple manner. And we're currently using this to try and map out and understand how we're going to attack and approach our implementation plan for Kolkata, for the future through 2023. And so the difficulty here was really just getting that interactivity going. And I think Esther can probably speak to some of the more technical aspects here.
So one of the issues that we were having was that the data just wasn't related the way that we expected it should be. And Ryan was using Alteryx to generate a spatial file for that map. And when he was doing that, he was losing all the identifiers or the IDs or the names that would tie it back to the rest of his data. What we found was originally he was doing a join to try to get that data back in, but that doesn't actually relate it, even though it put all the data in the same file. We need to do a union instead.
And that was one of the great things through that conversation, is that even though I was having a problem, I thought I had a problem with Tableau, reaching out to the service corps and working with Esther, she just going through some quick analysis and really understanding, she was just kind of able to point me in the right direction and say, hey, it's actually with your data and your data source and how you've built that. So just go ahead and try a couple of things there. And we were able to get that ironed out. And this is really exciting and new for us at Splash.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Yeah. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about how the service corps, we've mentioned before, the goal of is really just to make those initial connections and then move the partnerships along. And Splash has been a great example of this, because we weren't really aware of Splash, or they weren't on our radar before they started using the service corps, but that was the mechanism that really connected us, and now we've been able to form a pretty cool true partnership. They started with just one copy of Tableau, and they've really expanded adoption in a very impressive way, and we've been able to expand our support of the organization. They're actually, Ryan and the Splash team is attending our customer conference this month, and they're going to be speaking at one of our sessions and also exhibiting at conference, because in addition to being a great partner and an organization doing great work in the world, they're also just now a really cool use case of Tableau. So it's really truly a shared value partnership. We feel like Splash provides us just as much value as we provide them.
Thanks so much, Ashley. Yeah, I could echo that absolutely. I think some of the big accomplishments and just kind of line items that we've been able to move forward by partnering with Tableau and really working closely with the service corps is actually increasing adoption of Tableau internally at Splash, just because through simplifying and improving our visuals and improving that interactivity and leveraging the knowledge that Esther has actually really allowed us to increase the adoption and interest internally. And to the capacity building piece, I think without service corps and the ease of access to that knowledge base, the internal capacity building would be quite a bit more difficult. It would take a lot more time to kind of roll up my sleeves and dig in and learn that. But, knowing they're there has been a huge help in that aspect. And, the knowledge sharing piece, I think, not only happens between, myself and Esther. I think, Esther really enjoys kind of learning about our nonprofit and what we're working on. And,
For sure.
It's coming back my way, and I get to learn a lot about Tableau and look at it in different ways that I wouldn't normally do so. And then, internally at Splash, we have multiple Tableau desktop users, people who actually develop and build visuals. So the nice thing for us is that when I learn something from Esther, I'm able to go back and share that with my team members as well and kind of show them and take them along the educational process with me. And so next slide, I think that, moving forward for us is just really continue to take on new challenges. Really have the confidence to take on something that I'm not 100% sure I can do, but I know that I can try it and push it to a point where, then I can reach out to Esther and the Tableau Service Corps team to help me really kind of take it that extra step, take it that extra mile to the finish line. And last but not least, is just continue to collaborate, not only with the Service Corps and Tableau volunteers, but, just other nonprofits as well, and continue to learn.
Brian, do you want to make some comments before we go to questions and answers?
Oh, I think let's just go right. I know I'm seeing quite a few questions coming in, so let's jump right into
fantastic. Yes, and I appreciate the audience for providing, submitting these questions, and please keep on submitting them in the chat window, and we'll take them as they come in. The first question that came in during your discussion, Brian, was, it sounds like a critical starting point is to identify a network of subject matter experts and resources. How do you initiate creating and finding this network of individuals?
Well, our clients inherently have them. So we're working with larger corporations, larger nonprofits, professional associations, and universities. So they inherently have that supply and demand of supply of experts, as well as the demand on the knowledge-seeking side. So, in terms of quantifying that, excuse me, our rough estimate is that we generally work with organizations that have at least 1,000 people in their community, so that they then would take their, say, top 10% of employees, members, alumni, and what have you, to make them into advisors, mentors, champions, whatever the client wants to call their subject matter experts. So, so we generally work with organizations that have kind of the low end, like I say, is 1,000, but really it's mostly, I would say, more like 3,000 and above. And then we work with some organizations that have tens of thousands of folks that the mass pool of potential subject matter experts. But really quickly, they call them. I mean, they really, I shouldn't say call, they approve them, they review them. They don't just come on board with any of our clients on the most part. They really are making certain that the creme de la creme of their employees, their alumni, and the like are the subject matter experts. So folks like Esther, Ashley didn't just let Esther come on board. She made certain that Esther had what it took to be part of Service Corps. And that's what all of our clients do.
Just a quick follow-up to that. Is there anything inherent in your platform that allows your clients to kind of sift through the large amount of volunteers? There was, I think Ashley was talking about an evaluation or like a star rating type of thing. But are there, before you get to that point, are there tools in your platform that allows you to find those high performers?
Not within the platform itself. We do rely upon the clients to communicate out what their new program is going to be, and they generally want to own that process. Now, they set guidelines. Each of our clients set guidelines as to what it takes to be an expert, an advisor, a champion. And so based upon those guidelines and requirements, then the folks are reviewed and approved and brought on board and onboarded into the platform. Once they have been approved, vetted, then they go ahead and create their own profile. So it's not like Ashley is creating, hundreds of profiles of Tableau employees. They're creating their own profiles. But it is ultimately approved by Ashley before it goes live on the site.
There was a question directly for Ashley. Do you create legal agreements with volunteers, or do you have other types of agreements that you have them sign or agree to?
No, not for Service Corps engagements. We make it clear that it's something that employees are doing on a voluntary basis, kind of outside of their professional role here at Tableau. I'm usually careful to articulate that Service Corps, it's really a great on-demand service. If you have, if you run up against a problem, we want you to be able to keep creating, keep iterating, and so it's great for that. But it's not a replacement for professional services. If you have, a big project that has a really hard deadline and an important audience, these are volunteers that obviously have their own schedules and cadence they have to work on. So that's how I usually differentiate between the volunteer service and professional services.
So maybe as a follow-up to that, how do you then manage expectations with the ultimate target audience relative to engaging with volunteer resources versus your professional resources. Obviously, the volunteer resources are free, and maybe people don't have the same level of expectations on deadlines and deliverables, but still there has to be a little bit of kind of an expectation management on the volunteer force.
Yeah,
how do you manage that?
Definitely. I think that's why we decided to put that that 10-hour regulation around projects, because that's something I can both ask of the volunteers and prepare them for. That's one of the criteria, is that you're willing to work on projects that will take up to 10 hours of your time at a time. And then that's also clearly communicated out to volunteers that this is the expectation. And that's kind of like I was saying earlier. If I run into a nonprofit that has a very large project, I encourage them to really break it down into more 10-hour deliverables, since that's the expectation that's been set on the volunteer side.
Excellent. So this next question might be for Splash. What do you find motivates the advisors or the volunteers the most?
I think, it would be just new challenges. And I think a part of it is getting to understand what Splash does and our work, through those initial conversations. And then, Esther could probably speak to this too, but I think just kind of getting to know Splash as an organization and some of our efforts that we're working on, and then just kind of the problems we're looking to solve with Tableau and data visualization.
Yeah, I think that, I think Ryan mentioned this earlier, but I personally did come from a nonprofit background, so I have that kind of connection to the nonprofit world that I think to help. And I think that, a lot of the volunteers that, they really love Tableau and they're really excited to share it and help people learn. And it's, that in itself can be very satisfying, just to see somebody, understand something new about Tableau, because that can be a very fun moment.
Do you have at all examples, Ashley or Ryan, where maybe your volunteer base or these resources have actually been able to formalize a career move based on the volunteer opportunity?
A career move on behalf of the volunteer or the nonprofit, or either?
Oh, yeah, either, I guess.
We have actually had an experience with a volunteer getting so engaged in a project and so well respected through the platform that they made a career hop into the nonprofit sector.
Very good, excellent. I had a sneaky suspicion that might be the case, but a nice little on-ramp there.
Yeah.
Great. The question probably goes to Brian, I think. Do you work with nonprofits based outside of the U.S.?
All the time, day in and day out. We are working with the companies and organizations that are our clients are generally all in the United States, but the nonprofits, the grantees, the knowledge seekers are global. But that's not to say that we, excuse me, would not be able to work outside the United States. The platform is in English. We have not gone the path of making it become a multilingual platform yet. That's coming down the road a piece. But as long as the client is okay with the fact that it's in English, we're okay. We've addressed all the global GDPR privacy issues, et cetera, et cetera. So we're good in that department. So the answer is yes. We work with corporations, universities, and associations whose volunteers, experts, mentors, whatever they call them, like I said, they have the choice of what they call them. Tableau calls them volunteers, as well as their grantees, students, whomever, are across the globe.
Yeah, and to speak to that from a Tableau perspective, we have offices in multiple countries around the world, and we have volunteers on our Tableau Service Corps site in different countries outside of the U.S. And I always encourage our volunteers who have language skills to tag that so that it's searchable. And I know we have several advisors who speak Spanish and French.
Fabulous. There's a few questions that are particularly targeted. The first one in this group, I think, came for Ryan, The splash used, and I think it's a SODIS method or solar disinfection for water sanitation, or some other method. And what are some of the challenges of scaling splashes methods?
I think the solar disinfection method is probably referred, I think they're referring to ultraviolet or UV disinfection, but we don't use that. We use a number of different types of filters, but in all of our filters, there's something called a UF filter, an ultrafine filter, that really does all the heavy lifting for our water cleaning process.
Great.
And as far as the challenges, I think there's a myriad of challenges, but I think for all nonprofits, one of those challenges is funding, just so that we can do the work that we deem so important.
Yeah, and it appears that this platform certainly is an opportunity for you to augment internal resources with external. Great.
Absolutely.
Well, there was a couple of specific Tableau questions. Can Tableau ingest and analyze non-structured data?
So, Ashley, did you want to take this one? Or?
You go ahead, Esther.
Okay.
You're probably.
I would say that's kind of, non-structured is a little vague to me, and I'd want to know more about what that meant. Generally speaking, to make that final visualization, you do need your data to be structured. One of the benefits of Tableau is that there are ways in which you can add that structure in Tableau, if that either by joining in additional tables, which is actually one of the solutions that Ryan and I explored before we realized that he just needed to use a union instead of a join. You can, if you're using Excel, you can pivot your data. You can kind of build out some of your data in Tableau, but ultimately structure is helpful and you will need it.
Excellent. Anything else, Ashley, on that?
No, I think Esther nailed it.
Okay. There was another question that came in that was kind of along the same lines. I'm not sure how to interpret it, but can you elaborate on data maintenance efforts? What fields are involved with sample entry forms, ? Also, what's the cost structure per user?
Is that a question for Revere or for Tableau?
Well, I think it's two levels. Why don't we try it on Revere first, see if that, because I think it points to two very, very different types of environments. So go ahead, Brian, if you want to.
Exactly. We think of us as being very high level data points, and then Tableau, obviously, that's what they do day in and day out. It becomes very granular, so I'll let Ashley address that or Esther. But in terms of, it's the baseline data regarding, is shown in that report slide of, the who, the what, the where, the when, the how. We're not sitting in on any sessions or anything like that, but we are tracking the engagement of those sessions, what the topic, what the top skills are, who are the top advisors, and then of course you have all that information about the actual advisor themselves, beyond just name, email address, but their content, as Ashley had mentioned, tagging keywords, specific interests that really drives a psychographic profile beyond just the initial profile that you actually see there, so that when you do the search, it's full spectrum. So hopefully that answers that in terms of the data side for Revere. And pricing for us is very straightforward. We have a general standard installation as a one-time fee. It's very affordable for corporations. It's $7,500. There's some additional options that many corporations add on in terms of security and privacy that brings up the one-time installation price a little bit. And then it's just a flat, all you can eat, so to speak, approach to unlimited number of users, and both on the advising side as well as on the knowledge seeking side. So we charge a flat $1,000 a month because we want people to use this. So we do not, we keep our pricing, in the very affordable side of things, so that corporations and foundations like Tableau Foundation uses it. We want to scale this across the globe.
I don't know if Ashley or Esther wants to take on the question from a Tableau perspective.
Yeah, Esther, you can, if you have a better answer than me, go ahead. For data maintenance effort, I'm not exactly sure what that and what fields are involved. The fields and entry form. So Tableau is not a data collection tool. So it's a step beyond that. So after you've collected your data, Tableau does the visualization and analysis. And then for the cost structure, so for the Tableau for Nonprofits program that I mentioned earlier, so that's just donated software. And TechSoup does charge a processing fee, which you're probably familiar with if you've used TechSoup before. That's about $50, but the licenses themselves are donated. On the commercial side, you would have to ask a member of our sales team. I say that I don't sell Tableau, I only give it away. And they do have a general nonprofit discount, though, if you do not qualify for Tableau for Nonprofits.
Okay. Ashley, no, I'm sorry. Esther, anything from your end?
I think Ashley pretty much covered it. Kind of like with unstructured data, Tableau it does have a couple of tools that you could use to help clean data. If you had dirty data, you can create groups to group things that have like typos that should all be Washington, but you put an R in there or something. Yeah, Tableau is really more focused on the end result, creating the visualization and getting some information from your data.
Excellent. So we had two more questions.
Frederick, if you don't mind, I just want to kind of go back to that solar disinfection thing. It just kind of dawned on me that actually one of our larger filter systems has a three-step process. There's a carbon filter, an ultrafine filter, and then the very last step is actually a UV. It passes through a UV light. So it does have that piece in there, but we don't use that solely as the disinfection piece to our systems.
Great. Excellent. So the next question was, how does this platform or perform for qualitative data analysis in communications, particularly thinking about showing changes in gender and power relations? I don't know if this is a question particularly for Tableau, or if that's a question of more the relationships between the organization that deploys the platform and the volunteers. So I'll let you all interpret the question and take it from your perspective.
I think I could start on this one.
Sure, yeah.
So qualitative data in Tableau, anytime you have a qualitative data piece, we call that a dimension, and you can use those dimensions to build out your view. So something in gender, you might have, at a very simple level, you might have a bar chart of some measure that could be, salary or however you want to measure that power relation, and just kind of compare this between the gender. You can use that dimension, that gender dimension, in many different ways in your view to build that out, whether that be like a line chart of the two genders or a pie chart, or however you want to do that. But we do have that built in where you can use dimensions in all of your views to add information.
And we've had several grantees that have used Tableau in interesting ways for like scraping data from Facebook and doing some qualitative analysis on it.
Excellent. So, Brian, if we turn that onto to your platform, do you track demographics of your of the volunteers, or I'm sure you have some kind of profile, so they can use your platform in terms of saying what is our gender balance or what is our demographic balance? Do you have particular tools that the organizations can use in order to map those things, make sure that there's proper diversity?
Just like Tableau is not a data collection tool, we rely upon the client to know who they want to invite into the program. So they know who their employees are, they know who their members are, they know who their alumni are. So in terms of targeting and making certain that there's a balance, and I'm happy to say that when you go out on any of our client sites, the first thing that you'll notice is that it is completely split, anecdotally. We don't track that, male, female, as well as, race, et cetera, et cetera. We don't do that on our end. That's up to the client to make certain that their program is representative of their organization.
Great. So I think we have time for one more question before we wrap things up. The question is, does Tableau offer the service core function to multiple NGOs, and do they all leverage the Revere platform?
Yes, that's a great question. I should have been more specific on this before. So the Tableau Service Corps program is available to all nonprofits of any size. So it's completely open. As long as you're a nonprofit doing good work in the world, you're welcome and encouraged to leverage it. As I mentioned before, we actually have an abundance of advisors right now. We have over 100 advisors, and I would love to give them all projects. So yeah, it's totally open, and then leverage the Revere platform. So we leverage the Revere platform on our side. You don't have to have Revere as a nonprofit to access it. It's a public website, and you'll actually see the URL right up here. Good timing on that slide. So if you go to servicecorps.tableufoundation.org, that is our Service Corps site. The site is powered by Revere, and there as a nonprofit, you can search for volunteers and request sessions directly through there. Simple as that.
Excellent. Yeah, there's each of the presenter organizations here in the slides have their respective follow-on links, so we encourage the attendees to do that. You'll get the link to where we post these slides, as well as the recording of the session, and then follow-up email later today. Well, it remains for me to thank you all for a very, very interesting session. This is a little bit different than what we typically do with our webinar series. This is a multi-layered type of configuration with Revere, with Tableau Foundation, and with Splash, and how you use this platform to augment internal resources and draw on the skills and expertise of your volunteers and your fan base or your community. So thank you very much for sharing. I also want to thank, well, of course, the speakers, Brian, Esther, Ashley, and Ryan, and also to thank the audience for excellent communication, excellent questions, and we hope that you got something valuable out of this. And please spend a minute or two to answer the questions in the webinar satisfaction poll and indicate if you're interested in being contacted either by NetHope or by the speakers today. So I wish everybody a great rest of your day, and keep an eye on the NetHope Solutions Center for upcoming webinars, and we hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Frederick. Thanks, everybody.